Hey everyone, my name is Ester Tresia Sianturi, and now I want to present about my seminar proposal on research, and the title is The Effect of Using English Comic Strips in Teaching Writing of Narrative Text at 8th grade of SMP Negeri 9 Pematang Siantar. And for the first, I want to explain about Chapter 1, Introductions, and there are the background of the study. Language is very important for expressing oneself and communicating with others. It has significance in our life. People use language to communicate with each other. Since English has become an international language used by most people around the world, English is the first foreign language that is still being taught in Indonesian school. And then writing is one the four language skill used writing. Writing is an important skill in foreign language learning. Writing as a part of the language skill besides listening, speaking, and reading must be taught maximally by the teacher to the student. Students are expected to be competent and to develop writing skill. It means they have to be able to convey their feelings, ideas, and announcements to others. Many people find it difficult to learn writing. Writing, particularly academic, is not easy. Osima and Hague said it is important to note that writing is a process, not a product. It takes study and practice to develop these skills. Writing is never a one-stop action. It is an ongoing creative act that is always possible to review and revise and review and revise again. According to Brian, he categorized there are three problems that make writing skills difficult to be mastered: are linguistic, cognitive, and content problems. Based on the researchers' experience during the teaching practice at the SMP Negeri 9 Pematang Siantar, the researcher found that there are still many students who have difficulties in learning English, especially in writing. For the first, the students still confused and they did not know how to begin and how to write. And the second, some students were difficult to convey their ideas in writing because they were lacks of vocabulary, tenses, and difficult to make sentences. For these reasons, it often becomes the cause why they cannot writing anything on paper. Some learners are able to say what they want to write, but have difficulty in putting it into writing form. The problems above by the English teacher in this class, teaching these students only with textbooks without any additional media so that it is not relevant to be used in learning writing narrative text. To solve the students' writing problem and make them become good writers, the teacher should have varying ideas about the role of writing and how to develop narrative writing becomes an interesting activity in the classroom. To overcome the problem above, English comic strips can be fun if the teacher can make it to turn it into a creative writing assignment for the student by using appropriate media. Regarding to this, the media that can be used is comic strips. Most students like comic strips because it consists of interesting pictures and stories. They can easy to understand it. Picture in the comic strips can help the student to visualize and construct story ideas to be written. So narrative writing activity will be easy. Furthermore, it can be combined to this narrative writing activity. Therefore, the researcher is interested in experiment with one of the media that teachers use to improve their teaching English, especially in teaching writing, and help students develop their writing ability, namely comic strips. Based on the explanations above, the researchers is interested in choosing the research entitled The Effect of Using Comic Strips in Teaching Writing of Narrative Text at 8th grade of SMP Negeri 9 Pematang Siantar. For the next, identifications of the problems. Based on the background of the study, the problems can be identified as follows. For the first, difficult in developing and performing ideas into writing form. And the second, having limited vocabulary, especially new vocabularies, dictions, and idiom. 3. Not mastering grammar, 4. Lack of confidence, and 5. Low motivations. The scope of the research is focused on the vocabulary of using comic strips of writing narrative text. This research will be conducted on the student at 8th grade of SMP Negeri 9 Pematang Siantar. And then the problem of the research. Based on the background of the research, the problem of the study is formulated as the following. What is the effect of using comic strips in teaching writing of narrative text at 8th grade SMP Negeri 9 Pematang Siantar? And then the objective of the research. The researcher tries to find out the effect of using comic strip in teaching writing narrative text at 8th grade of SMP Negeri 9 Pematang Siantar. The significance of the research. The result of the study can give some benefits. For the first, theoretically, this research is hoped to contribute to the development of educational research in Indonesia. And practically for the teachers, for the student, and for other researchers. The hypothesis of the research. There are significance of students by using comic strip in teaching writing of narrative text at 8th grade of SMP Negeri 9 Pematang Siantar. Next, I want to explain about Chapter 2, Review of Related Literature. For the first, I want to explain about the definitions of writing. So, writing is considered as an active creation of text. Involves, on the one hand, lower order transcription skills such as handwriting, punctuation, and spelling, and on the other hand, higher order self-regulated thinking process such as planning sequences and expressing the content. It requires the writer to express the content of writing into a good composition by considering the aspect of writing to be understood by the readers. The components of writing. The components of writing are divided into 5. They are content, organization, language use, vocabulary, and mechanics. For the first, content of writing should be clear to readers so that the reader can understand the message conveyed and gain information from it. And the second, organizations. Organizations in writing concerned with the way students write, arrange, and organize the ideas or the message in the writing. And the third, vocabulary. Vocabulary, the effective use of the word, will always result good writing, both specific and technical writing. The dictionary is very considerable. And the fourth, language use. Language use in writing, description, and other form of writing involves correct language and point of grammar. And the fifth, mechanics. The fifth is mechanic. It is about spelling, punctuations, and capitalizations. Punctuation is important as the way to clarify meaning. In English writing, capital letter has two participles. For the first, they used to distinguish between particular and things, and the second is used at first word and quotation, formal statement, and proper adjective, and etc. And the second, I want to explain about vocabulary teaching techniques. in teaching procedures are very important and needed to support teaching and learning English vocabulary. There are some techniques of teaching vocabulary to beginners, such as the use pictures, context, mime or pantomime. And the first is pictures. Picture it is very effective to facilitate the process of learning. For kids, we can teach the object to the student only by using the picture of them. And the second, context. Then techniques using context, it is good technique, especially when we want to teach the abstract words such as happiness or lack or to go on trip. And the third, mime or pantomime. The last technique is by using mime or pantomime. It is done through gesture and facial expression and also via actions. And the third, I want to explain about the effect of vocabulary toward writing skill. Vocabulary is one of the English components that need to be mastered for acquiring writing. Writing needs various vocabularies to build different sentences. Hence, writing, which consists of a set of words in sentences and paragraphs, needs good writing form of words. Individuals that don't have good vocabulary mastery have problems in writing. It means that vocabulary is one of the case in writing. Based on the definition mentioned, good vocabulary will allow the reader to formulate more interesting sentences and avoid repetitions of the same word in one sentence or paragraph. And next, narrative text. So I want to explain about the concept of narrative text. Narrative text is like storytelling. So points out that narrative is arranging events in a story in chronological order is also a way of thinking about those events. Narration is writer tells the story of something that happened. Through narrative, we make statement clear by relating in detail something that has happened to us. The last, according to Setiawan, to write the narrative, there are 4 components that shall be carried. For the first, orientations, and the next, complications, resolutions, and coda. The functions of component narrative for the first orientation, the function of orientations are contents of topic and activity or even which wonderfully and the next should be interest and can provide the readers to know specially. And next, using adjective to describe personal attitude generally. And the functions of component complications. For the first, content details about the activities or the events with problematic which are arranged, sequence from introductions, conflict until climax. And the second, talking chronologically sequence, the activities are done. The sum in writing recount text in narrative text is also use sequences. First, second, third, etc. or first, next, after that, then finally, etc. And the third function of grammatical features, using for the first, using predicate with the verb with past tense forming past perfect tense, past continuous tense, using verb on predicates such as run out, go and bend, etc., which describe the activities. And the next, using adjective, which the function to show the personal attitude such as frightened, quiet, calm, worried, confused, anxious, happy. And the next, using conjunction is also found such as first, my aunt was very frightened, but she tries to manage herself to be quiet. And the last, resolutions. Content problem solving has told until the climax. So according Pardiono, narrative is an special kind of text which talks about events with problematic and unexpected outcome, they entertain and instruct the reader or the listener, such as novels, poems, comics, movies, and other. Okay, the purpose of narrative text. For the first, to entertain, to express feelings, to relate expressions, to inform or to explain what happens when a person is arrested, to inform or to teach lessons, and the last, to persuade or to convince the reader that communicative service should be required in high school. And for example of narrative text, I put the story about Maling Kundang in here. And importance of teaching narrative text in classroom. Writing narrative text, the student writing text which can train their way of thinking in writing about event in story in chronological order. Narrative text is important to be taught because of consisting of stories. And the next, I want to explain about media. Generally, teaching media means all tools which may be used by teacher to deliver teaching material to students in teaching, learning process to reach certain learning goals. So there are kinds of media. The teacher creativity in using media can increase student comprehensions in understanding the lesson in the class. There are many kinds of media that can be applied teaching learning activity. Media is divided into three types, namely audio, visual, and audiovisual. Function of media in teaching learning process. Using media in teaching learning activity is very useful and crucial for the teacher and student. For the student, it can help them to understand some certain concept that cannot be explained orally by the teacher. Comic strip. The definition of comic strips. Comic strip is printed paper consists of images and incorporated with text. And then application of English comic strip in teaching writing of narrative text. Most of the students are lazy to write because they regard as complex and difficult English language skills. So, moreover, they are also getting stuck to tell and describe the next plot of story after writing the introductory paragraph. After explaining about narrative text, she can distribute the comic strip to each students and then ask them to retell and rewrite the story in paragraph in English. This method is very easy to be conducted by the teacher in the classroom, and it will make the student feel fun in writing. Previous researcher, there are some relevant researchers that are used to this research. For the first, Lutfi Fatih, Norma Indah using comic strip to improve the 8th grade students. And then Elia improving students' skill of writing short version of narrative text by using comic strip for the 11th grade. And the last, Sunah, the use of comic strip to improve student ability in write narrative text. Conceptual framework of the researchers conduct the research to find out whether teaching using comic strip can be an effective way to increase and influence student motivation in writing narrative text or not. So I think that's all about my presenting about my thesis and the title and my seminar proposal on the research. If I make mistake, please forgive me. Thank you.